Welcome to episode 1 of KERV, your go-to destination for everything entrepreneurship, KERV life, and the untold stories that shaped our journey. I'm Ben, Marketing Manager, and this episode we're joined by Rich, our Marketing Consultant, and Stu, Group Director and Head of Culture at KERV. Join us as we explore the values, practices and stories that make KERV's culture so unique and inspiring.
What we're talking about today, Ben, all things culture, DNA, values.
Yeah.
All insiders look into life at KERV, I suppose, mate.
Life at KERV, all things culture from your perspective, Stu. So culture, that word has very different meanings to very many different people. So what does culture mean to you?
To me, I think it's about feeling a sense of belonging to something. It's getting what you want from an experience. It's enjoying where you go. It's feeling like you're progressing in somewhere. It's this invisible glue, I think, that sort of knits businesses together. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you know you enjoy being a part of it. And I think we've distilled it, or I've sort of many years distilled it into what we consider a value base. Trust, honesty, respect. We have a laugh, but we work hard. And I think that for me sort of summarizes what our culture is. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you know, you're feeling like you're a part of something. It's got momentum. You know, you can trust the people that you're working with, and you feel like you're going somewhere and not stagnating. I think that's really important. But probably the best way to sum it up for me is that the invisible, you can't quite put your finger on it, but it's got an energy
there
about it.
I like it, mate. Energy, soul of the business.
Exactly.
You mentioned values there, which I think, obviously, me and Ben are more marketing side of the table. And it can be seen as, to be honest, a values exercise can be seen as a bit of a fluffy fucking marketing exercise, essentially, which it can be, in my opinion, if people are just going to pick 5 buzzwords, chuck them on the office wall, and then put them on the website. Nothing much else happens. Yeah. So what do these values mean to you? And I think more importantly, how do we future-proof the values moving forward? Because I think particularly when a business starts and there might be 3 or 4 people, it's founder-led, who are very hands-on. It's easy to embed that. Things have changed at KERV. There's a lot more heads. What is he, 16 brands nowadays? Something along those lines. Yeah. Now that must be pretty fucking challenging. So how do we go about that?
I think it is difficult, but I mean, we originally sort of distilled it down for things like culture, but also the description of sound. You know, we're all quite sort of down to earth guys who work hard, but you know, if you said so-and-so is sound, it sort of removes doubt on them. And then how do you know, it sounds very basic and you know, I suppose it don't have much in way of science behind it. But if you were to say that someone is sound, it sort of removes any of that doubt. And what is that? And we broke it down into, well, it's someone that you can trust. To be building trust, you've got to be honest, you know, and how do you get into that? There's loads of questions you can ask about background and things, and you can do things like references to establish trust. But that creates a respect, and it's someone that you respect. We all respect each other. And I think those first 3 are crucially important, because you can interview someone on those 3, and along the way you can discover, you know, what they like. Do they have a laugh? Are they one of us? And more importantly, will they work hard? How much do they want to achieve this thing? So it is important to us. It's not just the point of a culture. It's the sort of bedrock on which as businesses are built. It's, you know, we don't want to just work with people just because they make money. It's got to be bigger than that, because we go on a full journey with them. And I think distilling that down into trust, honesty, respect, you know, we can have a laugh, but we all want to work hard. It really gives you a centerpiece to work with. And then new people coming through, you know, it's the same bedrock. You know, each business is slightly different, but they've all got a consistency in that value base. And that's really what we look for. And like I said, the first 3 you can dig into. You can look at references, you can look at past history. History has a habit of repeating itself. Go back and speak to previous managers, regardless of what they've done before, and build a real sort of honest assessment of who that individual is. And you'll know if you have a laugh with them or not. And I think that is you don't want to leave any of that in doubt. You know, you can rely on that part. And I think when you then get to the stage that you're going to make a decision to join each other, I think you should both feel privileged that you've chosen each other. You know, regardless of if it's someone who's got very little experience or someone who's, you know, got a shitload of experience who are investing in to set a business up. But I'm not really answering your question. I'm going around.
Yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
it's a good answer, mate. And I think just for a bit of context there, it's, I suppose from what we're discussing here, we're looking at employees of the portfolio brands within the business, but also potential future investees, the people who are going to launch these brands moving forward. So, it's a tough one, isn't it, to get right? But I assume we need to be looking at the pre-stage and the post-stage. So attracting these people in the first place and making sure they're the right fit in the first place, but then how that is consistently embedded into the businesses moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, we recognise that, you know, we can't work with everybody. We don't want to work with everybody, but we've got a blueprint of the type of people that we do want to work with. And that works for us. You know, it's we can't be everything to everybody, as I say. And I think it's when you've got that value base and you live by it, which we all do, we try to.
Yeah.
It sort of pulls everything in line, and you've got a benchmark then which to go off, you know, and you can hit them trigger points. And we've got it wrong in the past, you know, but when you do, you sort of find it out quite quickly because you've got that as your reference point. And it just works for us.
Good man.
You speak about obviously trust, honesty, respect, having a laugh. Them 4 values specifically, was that sort of something you've developed over time in sort of different working environments, or is that something that just resonates with you personally and obviously others within the business?
I think a bit of everything, mate. I've worked in some amazing businesses with some incredible people over the years. I've worked with some quite interesting characters where it's more what not to do over the, you know, in certain situations, but everything's a learning experience, isn't it? And I think when you get the opportunities to stamp your mark on something, I've always felt that successful businesses are built on successful cultures. Successful cultures is individuals playing their part and being responsible to adding to that. And then you put it all together, and that's what creates the foundation of a great culture. Yeah. That's born out of some of the great businesses I've worked in, some of the interesting characters I've worked with, knowing what works for me. Having gone into businesses as a senior person and having to affect culture, having, from a personal perspective, having mental health issues where I've needed to find a foundation for me to work from. Whereas I've been in situations before, there's one team in particular, I always remember, I didn't stick to my value base and I tried to be more what I thought they needed, and it just didn't work out. You know, they didn't get the best of me. I didn't get to know them properly. I thought, I'm never doing that again. So when I had the opportunity to do my own thing with the guys at KERV, it was crucial that we set that out at the beginning. Because even when day one, when I'm in an office on my own, you know, I can still start to live and breathe that culture. And then anybody walking in, it's the beat that we all work to or we all walk to, and it just works. So yeah, it's a bit of history, it's a bit of personal, it's a bit of everything really.
Yeah. And I think I suppose I'm more of an outsider looking in terms of coming into the fold maybe once a week and so forth and helping out from that front. So it's interesting for me to see, and that's, I think from my perspective, was one of the reasons I jumped at the chance, knowing the culture of the business and been around you guys a little bit as well. So all positives. Let's focus on some more of the challenges. I think from what you've said, it comes down to behavior, doesn't it? Like behaviors within the business.
Yeah.
Now, I think also from what you've said, you've been quite honest yourself that sometimes even yourself can behave in a manner that doesn't align with your values in certain scenarios. So naturally, we're going to expect that from time to time from people within the business. So when we've got these challenges and potentially people aren't living up to kind of the DNA, the values, the culture, the principles, whatever we want to fucking call it, what advice have you got there? Because that's not an easy one, is it?
No, but I think people need to know where they stand. And when I talk about that experience that I had previously, people probably didn't know where they stood with me because I didn't know where I stood in that situation because I wasn't used to being in that scenario where I was trying to be something that I wasn't. And I think it's if your value base kicks off with trust and honesty, you've got to be pretty honest. And I think if you're setting the expectation in the first place and you're managing them expectations and you're being honest with the individuals, then everyone knows where they stand. There's been experiences this week where I've had to have a few words with people about some situations where they probably thought, right, someone moved on from the business that they probably thought, well, what impact does that have on me? And it's about living these values. It's about working hard. It's about trusting us on this journey. But from our perspective, it's about just being honest with them. And if this is used a lot certainly in podcasts and business nowadays, but if you can really invest and understand a person's why and what it is they want to achieve, providing they're being truthful to themselves, you can help them achieve it, but you can only help them achieve it by being honest with them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that we work really hard on, is to make sure that we manage their expectations. We recognize we're going to do well if everybody else does well, if everybody that works with us do well. So we're going to make it all about them. But we have to be honest in the first place. And then that creates that accuracy in the why, and we can all get on board and do it together. Mm-hmm. If they start veering off, we'll have the conversation. Look, what is your why? What is it you want to achieve, and why do you want to achieve it? And then we can realign again. But it is just about being honest and having a system in place or a process in place to manage expectations and make sure that each one of us sticks to our side of the bargain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I think obviously within the KERV portfolio, there's so many different businesses, and with that, there's so many different cultures within them businesses. And obviously the KERV culture is through mainly the trust, honesty, respect, and the laugh. How do you embody them values, obviously, whilst managing all the other values at the same time that potentially could counteract? Or
I think it goes back to source when you're meeting people, because like I said, you can't be everything to everybody. So we try and align ourselves with people that, they're very similar in the mindsets to us. There's hundreds of thousands of great recruiters, for example, but, not all of them are going to work with us. And we won't fit with all of them. So I think it's understanding, what makes that person tick. We invest very heavily at the front end, getting to know the individuals. Because, it's great having a wonderful product, but if the person that's delivering it isn't, aligned with us, then it's destined to fail. We had a business with a very famous recruitment investor for a while. We had our own sort of VC, jointly ventured, jointly funded. And we recognized pretty early on that we were trying to make something work that didn't fit for us, because we were stepping into a territory which wasn't matched with our values. They were looking very financially at decisions. We were looking very much at the whole thing. And I think then sort of recognizing that was a beautiful learning curve, because we thought we don't have to be everything to everybody. So hitting that really early doors and establishing that with the person who's the founder of that business, you're then emulating that person because it's similar to ourselves and then everybody else then that you're bringing through. You know what you're looking for. And we've got a seriously low turnover of staff because of that huge investment we make at the front end to try and get it right. We have like all recruitment businesses now, or businesses in the modern age, we work very hard on things like mental well-being, providing a positive working area, having a great social space where we've got, the bar downstairs, pool tables, music systems, and, all that type of stuff. But, it's got to be, it's got to be right for everybody. That it sort of fits. I've just lost my train of thought with that completely.
I'll press on. It's fine.
I was going down an angle and then something else popped into my head like Homer Simpson. Fucking donut or something. I do this all the time. It would have been amazing what I was going to say as well. Let's just assume it would have been mint.
It'll come back, mate.
It'll come back.
Yeah, so, we're wicked anyway.
I think you've touched on a few things there, which I suppose stood out to me in terms of building culture anyway. And I think the main one is, look, we're in business to make money. We all are. And we can't beat around the bush at that. However, when you guys are looking at culture, and I see it firsthand, so it's easy for me to come in from the outsider's view and look in again and say, this culture's fucking great. We can talk about pool tables, we can talk about office environment, we can talk about the incentives and the staff nights out and all that type of stuff, which, it's great. It's one piece of the jigsaw, isn't it? I think that's what people focus on quite a lot when we talk about culture, but it comes back to that, what you were saying earlier on, the kind of that underlying spirit and soul of the business that you can't quite put your finger on at times. But yeah, you've been around the block in terms of recruitment. You've seen a lot of different cultures in terms of prior to setting up KERV. And we all kind of know traditionally as well, the old school 90s style recruitment and the cultures that were flying about then. What's different about KERV from those days, or potentially still some firms that are out there nowadays?
I think, again, it boils down to that initial setting a stall out at the very beginning. You know, we cultivate a longer term relationship. We don't have a hire. In fact, that's what I was going to talk about, our staff turnover.
There we go.
Boom, segue back in there, mate. And it's because of the front end stuff that we do, you know, making sure we have people enjoy working at our place. And I think that's why we get a low turnover, but they don't enjoy it just because we sit around laughing. They enjoy it because they're getting something from it professionally as well. You know, we make, I suppose it's your success, our priority. And that is a big statement. So it's got to really work, but we've got to know that we can make their success work for us as well. And I think what's different, I think just being back to that honesty piece, you know, understanding what they want to achieve and saying, right, great, we can do that. You know, you can probably potentially earn a little bit more money somewhere else, or, you know, might be a slightly better commission structure. There always is, but we will really work hard to cultivate their talent and take them on a journey. We make it difficult to join, but really quite easy to stay. I think that's the sort of mentality that we try and run with. So, you know, you'll have several interviews leading up to it. You know, we will grill you on your background. We do want to understand that trust, honesty, respect piece. History does have a habit of repeating itself. But then when we make that decision to shake hands and get you across the line, it's that back to that privilege thing. We should both feel privileged that we've chosen each other, and then providing we all stick to our side of the bargain, we can realize them goals together. Because, you know, my goals are only realized if you hit yours. So I'm going to drill real down into it. And again, back to the why thing. Why is it important? You add an emotion, or you attach an emotion to that journey. You've got so much more investment into it. And then you see the guy next to you doing exactly the same, and the girl across from you doing exactly the same, and that builds the momentum. And you can celebrate on a week that you've done really well, or you can sort of commiserate together when it hasn't gone so well. Because, you know, we don't have a hire and fire policy. We're not run by KPIs. We do have them. Every business should, because it's your barometer or your benchmark of how you're progressing. But, you know, we don't kill people with them. And it's cliche time, isn't it? But it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And if we're going to choose you, or you're going to choose us, then we're in this, and we're going to make sure it works. So, look, every business is going to say they're different, and there'll be a specific reason why. We're a recruitment company. We've got telephones, laptops, we've got clients and candidates. You know, we give a shit about service, and we want to do a great job. But, you know, happy people sell a lot more than unhappy people, and we try and work on that cultural piece as well as the development piece, and just offer a really compelling proposition to someone who's wanting to get into a journey in recruitment, because it's an awesome career.
Well, that's exactly what I was about to touch on. Especially
I thought you were. That's why I went on to that.
Exactly. Yeah. With culture, how does that affect performance? Obviously, within KERV and the workplace. Do you think?
I think it's huge. I think it's huge. Like I said, great businesses are built on a great culture. You know, it only takes one person to rock the apple cart, and you know, it's not like it's a cult or a dictatorship. It's making sure that everybody contributes their side of the bargain. So I think what it does is it means that you can talk about when things aren't going well, because you've got an open culture where you can say, I'm struggling with this. In some businesses I've been, you can't, because you just get berated or, you know, shown the door. And I think it just makes things, it gives more, I keep talking about things like momentum and impetus. You want to feel like you're moving forward. Every single day, you want to feel like you've made that little stepping stone towards something. And I think culture underpins that. It brings that energy that we talked about, that feeling of Monday morning. You know, we've all been there. I can't be asked going into work today. You know, I don't believe we have that. But I would always say, don't take my word for it. You know, go speak to our guys on it. Anybody that we interview, I'll say, why have you got such a low turnover of staff? Well, go speak to the guys and ask them. because you're going to get a much more, authentic reply from them. You get one from me, but you might think, well, he owns it. He's full of shit. So go speak to the people that do it. But it's crucial for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's evident within the business, in terms of the type of people that are within the business, I suppose. You see a lot of the old cliche things on the walls of, is it Huel and the rest of it, where it's like, no dickheads. But I genuinely believe that is the case in KERV from looking in, apart from Andy Wardle.
Special mention, Andy Wardle.
He's all right. But I think it's driven from the top down, isn't it? I think culture is driven from the top down. It's monkey see, monkey do a lot of the time, which for me brings back to, look, that's driven from you. It's driven from Kev. It's driven from the rest of kind of the leadership team, which tells me it's important to you. And you've touched on a little bit from a personal perspective and the challenges that you've had personally, which were no doubt while you were working at previous companies or running previous businesses. So I know there's an underlying drive there from you and Kev. And it's not just about finance. It is about finance. We won't beat around the bush. It's important. We're in business. But in terms of the culture that you've built, can you pinpoint why it's so important to you? And you might be able to speak for Kev here as well.
I had opportunities to go and work with other businesses before I met Kev and set up with Kev. And I met Kev and I just thought he's sort of cut from the same cloth as me. We're, I don't want to sound demeaning here, but we're working class people with sort of interesting childhoods, brilliant childhoods, very different in obviously Kev's story and mine. But I think when you come from a place where you haven't necessarily got a lot, you appreciate what you do have. And then in later life, having sort of mental issues at a really young age and people going, oh, he can't have, he's always too happy. You create veneers and stuff of what actually is going on. I think for me, it's really important that you've got that honesty. Like I said, I've got by in other businesses. I've got by through personality or character or resolve. I've developed lots of skills and experiences. I've almost been like an actor. And when I went into this, it was more about being honest to ourselves about what it is we want to do. I don't want there to be ever like a false situation where you think that's actually not what this is. So back to the point of when Kev was on his own, he started his business, it was exactly the same as when I was on my own up in Leeds and I did my version of it before the likes of James got involved with me. It was only a short period of time, but it was very important to have that mentality of day one, the second I walked through that door, it's about trust, honesty, respect, enjoying the journey. I've got to work hard. I've got to make this work. And then anybody else coming through, that's crucially important. And I think living with a fear is what drives me of not wanting to go backwards. Mental health is, I don't want to make this about mental health, but it's something that affects a lot of people. And I think once you are upfront and honest about it, people have known about my issues for years, but I've still always masked them. And I thought a really good way of being able to tackle them is to incorporate them into what we do and why we do it and how we do it. And I think Kev and I just hit off really early doors that we're quite similar in that sense, and being authentic. There are big billers that I've worked with in the years who would love to come and work with us, but they just wouldn't fit what we've got in terms of culture. And we're more people over the pound, whereas in some businesses, or not businesses, but some people I've worked with have been more about pound and profit. And I think, well, if you've got an authentic culture and an honesty in your business and they give a shit about what they do, you're going to do well. We've had guys who've come in and we've taken them from, reasonable billers to, 5, 6, 7, 800. These are ridiculous numbers, but they've got freedom. They're not performing for anybody other than themselves. And I think that honesty at the beginning is crucial, and being honest with yourself. So I can't even remember the question. I've gone down another avenue, but
it was a good answer.
It was.
So it's all right. Just touching on a couple of things that you've said there as well, some good stuff. I think, this podcast isn't about mental health, but it's everything, isn't it? It's we've all got physical health, we've all got mental health, and I think when you've got a leadership team that fucking understands that, that is going to have an impact on exactly what we're speaking about, which is culture.
Yeah.
Sometimes our physical health might be in top form. Sometimes it might not be. Sometimes our mental health might be in top form. Sometimes it might not be. And I think what I see from you guys is also a commitment to working on that mindset piece as well, because I think in recruitment, everyone can learn to understand to do the job. However, if you've not got the right energy put into it, then it's probably not going to be so successful. And I can see that with you guys, that there is that focus on mindset as well, particularly your leadership as well, Stu. So yeah, talk to me about that. What do you embed into the culture from a mindset perspective?
I think it's understanding what a person wants to achieve and why they want to achieve it. And I think it's being honest enough to be able to just say, look, I want to do this. This is why I want to do it. And I think if someone gives you an answer, why do you want to be successful? I want to earn loads of money, tends to be the first response in recruitment, which for the most part is true, but is it really? It's, you want to feel a part of something. You want to achieve something. You want to prove a point. You want to realize your potential, whatever it may be. And I think it's just understanding what that is and really working with the person to achieve it. If you invest in someone on an individual basis, they'll give back. I call it sort of emotional trading. I'll give them a little bit of me in terms of experience and pitfalls and stuff that I've been through. And I think it opens up the opportunity for that person to feel they can confide and trust me in the conversation as well. And then really get into the root of what it is they want to achieve and why. It just makes it so much easier to go out and actually achieve, because it's not bullshit. It's not that I just want to earn money. I want a promotion. What's a grand on your basic salary if, ultimately it's about, for me, happiness, choices, feeling like you're a part of something. And that's what we really try and work to achieve across the group is giving people a sense of purpose, that when they're coming in, they're not just the job. It's not just the number. You're not just about your figures on the board. It's about everything else in between. Because if you stick to your side of the bargain, you hit all those basics of the job, you commit culturally, you're going to earn a load of money, because the net result is satisfied clients, satisfied candidates, everyone hitting what they want to hit in terms of basics, and that contributes to a more positive culture as well. I've sat with a few guys in the last couple of weeks who have been, thankfully, open enough to tell me about some of the issues that they've got, and I'm like, boom, brilliant. I can relate to that. Not brilliant that they're experiencing it, but I can relate to it and try and help dodge that pothole that might be coming, and give them some examples of where I've had experience like that in the past and what I've done to deal with it. I had 20 odd years of the thing now. I've lived with it longer than I haven't, but over that time I've designed some really good coping mechanisms that I've applied into work. Momentum, little stepping stones, feeling like you're moving in the right direction every single day. Not killing yourself if you have a bad day. Mentally just thinking, right, it's all right. I can dust myself off. I can go again. And I think that's really important, is that people know that. We have built a business through honesty and working hard, and you can relate to that. We've not been, we've not bought anything in terms of success. We've grafted for it, and everybody recognises that. Again, back to the same point though. At that very beginning is making sure you're bringing the right people in who do fit us, because there's some brilliant recruiters out there. There's awesome recruiters. They won't fit for us, so there'll be no point, doing anything. But we established that. We're always honest about it, and crack on.
I think that takes time, doesn't it, in terms of the trust that someone can be honest with a senior leadership team, because you've just highlighted there that if you sat down with someone this week who was honest about their probably pretty fucking deep personal problems, that takes time, doesn't it? It's not a fucking buzzword on the wall again, is it? But it's tangible in terms of the culture that's been created here. And I think for an employee coming into a business, having a senior leadership team that they can trust that they can go through that process with is important. But the other thing I'd highlight there is that's not just with employees, is it? It's the people you're investing in, the business partners, the shareholders, the whole lot as well.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, like it is. It always starts with that honesty of the initial conversations about what do you want to achieve, how do you want to achieve, why do you want to achieve it, are we right for each other, investing in that dynamic. And it wasn't as slick and easy as it is now. It's still hard now, but we managed to streamline it to the point where we do know what we're looking for, and we're really upfront about it. And you're right, it is across the board. That's why you could have conversations across any. That's back to the point of don't take my word for it. Different business partners, different managers, directors, consultants, whatever it may be. Go and have your conversation with them and discover it for yourself. Because each business is slightly different, because there's a slightly different figurehead who's driving that culture, but it's got that consistency of the trust, honesty, respect, having a laugh and working hard. That does run through them all. Just might be a slightly different flavour per business, which, we've had instances in the past where we've moved people across the group because they're probably more relevant to one than the other. And it's worked really well. So, yeah.
You spoke earlier about enjoying the journey. Now, that's something that's deep within KERV. If you're taking someone on, say, so you spoke about earlier about the recruiting top billers, for example. It's more about, I guess, personal development potentially from the KERV side, would you say? And obviously enjoying the journey that you're on. Would you say, is that sort of deep within the culture of what you're trying to encourage?
Yeah, we don't want it just to be about, transactional, come to work and get a salary and just trade in time for cash. We've invested heavily in personal development for people, individual personal development for people. And that's not just recruitment related. That's, we've done leadership courses, self-awareness stuff, unlocking your potential, and sort of positive mindset type of thing. We invest in, we've started buying all our own buildings, commercial properties, which we've got a number of different business partners that have got involved in, creating an extra layer of security going forward for your families and things like that. Investing outside of even commercial properties, residential properties. My business partner Kev's big on that. He's got a big portfolio of properties that he's involved in. He passes on that experience to guys, and it's interesting. It makes it a little bit more than just a transactional workplace. But we've also got a number of businesses that are really on the cusp of going somewhere very, very special. We've worked hard to develop the brands to get them to the stage where they're all scalable now. And, that's global recruitment businesses, that's local recruitment businesses. And we're sort of in a position where we feel we can offer really compelling opportunities for billers, but, young people as well who are looking for an opportunity to get into a career like recruitment. It goes off the radar. People don't know about it unless some guy rings you up and sees your CV, or, a recruiter gets hold of you and says, have you thought about recruitment? So we want to try and, work to do something about that, because, I don't have a degree or A-levels or anything like that. But just through working hard and taking advantage of opportunities, I'm making a decent career for myself in recruitment. There's a hell of a lot more I want to do and we're going to do, but, it's a brilliant foundation for people. So I've segued into selling recruitment as an opportunity and not really answered your question. I will get better. I will get better. I'm sorry.
What keeps you going then, mate? Like, you've been, I'm not trying to say you're old here. Well,
I'm the oldest in the group.
Oh, yeah.
No, Riggy's. I'm all right.
Riggy,
you're all right.
Yeah, you got a bit of catching up to do there as well.
Yeah. I'm here below.
Tough paper round. But yeah, you've been in recruitment a fair few years. You see a lot of people leave early doors, but I still see people leave in the 30s and the 40s when they've been at it for a decade or so. Can be a tough world to live in at times without trying to glorify the industry, and we all know that. So more on you, mate. Like, what fucking drives you? What's next? Why are you still pushing things forward and coming in and giving that energy to all the team? What's next for you, and what is that underlying driver?
I think seeing people do well, that's where I get a buzz off that. I think you get to a stage where, you see someone with potential, they don't necessarily know where to take it. That I was in that position years ago. I knew I had a personality to do well in something like this, but it needed someone to grab hold of me and take me on a journey and give me some of the fundamentals and help me when they probably didn't even know I needed help at that time. And I think recognizing some young, up and comer who's got bags of potential but don't necessarily know where to take it, watching them go on the journey. There's a few guys that we promoted recently who, they took a chance on us 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, and now they're managers, directors of the business, and that is just monumental for me. Sitting down with someone when there's 2 or 3 of you in an office and saying, leave your job, take that pay cut at the time, which we had to do, and come and join us in this amazing journey. And, we'll get you there, and doing it, and probably doing it quicker than what we'd anticipated to get them to a position. That's just so rewarding. And then now seeing the scalability of those coming underneath them and watching them on that journey take the other guys, that's the greatest gift in the world, because passing on knowledge and experience and watching someone run with it, hire again in the right place, first place in terms of the right people, watching them run with it and seeing how they develop and how your guy then nurtures them, that's huge. And just having that energy and spirit that you're moving somewhere, and that people are getting from what was don't get us wrong, we were in some shite old little offices just running around. We couldn't get Wi-Fi and stuff. And then seeing where we are now with, several of our own buildings, and really seeing people on a journey and an upward curve, and then them running with it, and challenging you and provoking thought. Something like this, sitting in here doing this, that's you guys, that's Ben who's come through the apprenticeship program, giving people an opportunity. 20 years ago, or 20 odd years ago, whenever I got into recruitment, I needed someone to say, don't worry that you haven't got a degree, I'll take a chance on you. And for me, passing that baton to our guys now is hugely rewarding and really important, because Ben wanted an opportunity, and I recognise that, and we want to work with him to give him that, and he's smashing it. It's the same with Rachel, Soph, some of the other guys, the other kid who's going to be joining us. Invest in the people at that level and watch them go. That's one of the most rewarding things you can get. Not just about doing the physical job of recruitment, but all our support teams as well. It's monumental. And then they're provoking thought in us. We're going into directions now that we never thought we'd be, because people feel appreciated. They're accountable for their own performance, their own journeys. They know they're getting invested in, and they're now running with it. So I think the energy of being around people who give a shit about what they do, they're focused on what they do, they're living the values of the business, it just makes it incredibly rewarding and an exciting place to be.
Yeah.
That's all built from the foundations, really, that you've set through culture. You touched on it through you, yeah, of course. But not just like you touched on earlier, obviously, you saying that the foundations of that has to be there for culture, for you saying about the levels, about how you really enjoy seeing the people who you've give the cultural values to, then instill that in people who have just joined after that.
Yeah.
So it's all about what we touched on, really, the foundations and that being there culturally from the off.
Yeah, well, I mean, from, Kev, Sean, myself, James, Mark, and then subsequently other business partners coming in, every one of them really have got that, where they give an immense shit about what they do and about how it's done for them personally, but the clients, the candidates, the guys coming through to continue to deliver that service, that quality, but provide the individuals with the same opportunities that they had. It comes this self-fulfilling prophecy thing where if everybody sticks to their side of the bargain, you're going to go somewhere. And it just works. So it does cascade down, because Kev were doing it when he started, Sean was doing it after him, I was doing it after him, and we've all got our own little slight version of it. I'm probably more of the culture driver, if you like, because that's what's important to me. And yeah, everybody who comes in subsequently, they all add to it. It's very obvious if they don't, because when you've got a load of people who are invested in doing something and this person isn't, they're over there and you're thinking, well, they need to get over onto this side, or that's how you manage quite a lot of these situations, because it becomes obvious that they're not. And you've just got to be honest and realign and sort of, get back on the program. And there could be loads of reasons why they're swaying off. You might just need an arm around them, or people's minds change. I don't want to do this for this reason anymore, and that's fine. Let's understand what it is, and we'll go again.
Yeah, it's not all sunshine and rainbows 24/7.
No, it ain't. That's why I've got hair transplants, dyed hair, glasses on again. I've only had my eyes lasered a few years ago. I'm losing my mind. My joke, right?
So we can look at this from a couple of perspectives, but let's say I'm working elsewhere. I'm billing. I've got a few years experience. I've got the drive to start my own recruitment business. We've got different routes here. I'm going to be a maverick and go on my own. We've got looking at someone like KERV and getting backing, whether that's financial backing and obviously all the other infrastructure that goes there as well, or potentially got moving companies to another recruitment business and being a paid employee again. What do you feel is a benefit for having, I suppose, initially the first conversation with KERV, but also what can KERV do for that type of character? We've talked a lot about culture and camaraderie, which I think for me is one of the most important things. Go on a business and they're on their own and then they lose all that, and you can see people stagnate quite a lot. But yeah, if I'm that person who's looking to make that decision, what conversations are you having with me?
I think first and foremost, it's establishing the fact that we're not giving you our advice. We're giving you our experiences. We've been there, we've done it. We've grown a large portfolio of both recruitment and non-recruitment businesses, but primarily in terms of recruitment, we've got collectively, God knows how many years of experience, where from setting up in a bedroom to growing multiple offices, global businesses, and everything in between. So, if we don't know the answer immediately, someone within the group probably will, and we'll work towards it. So day one, if there's one or two of you, you're actually starting probably with a team of about 15. If you consider the ops support and all the different colleagues that you'll have in terms of investors that get involved, because we don't put money in, we put time, effort, advice, guidance from day one. That's why we only select a few businesses or business partners every year, because once we're in and we fully commit to it. So the conversation I'm having is come and have a chat with us, understand what we've done and how we've done it. Let's talk about your business plan. Let's talk about, what are the reasons you want to do this? If it's just financial, let's pad it out a bit. Let's talk about what you can do outside of that. If it's just transactional recruitment, then it's probably not right for us, because we want to build something that's got purpose and meaning to it, and it's scalable. And like I said, we all invest outside of recruitment, so we've got all sorts of stuff going on, as you know, and that just gives it an extra layer of interest to someone. It means that the money's going somewhere, and then you're building opportunities for people coming through behind them. So I think just having that initial conversation and saying, what is it you want to do? Why is it you want to do it? Giving you a full sort of breakdown of what we've done and how we've done it, and then sort of finding that meeting in the middle. There are great businesses out there all invest in you. If you just want cash, go get a bank loan and do it. Just learn by the seat of your pants. If you want to be someone who's got, all the experience that we've got in doing it, just come and have a chat with us. We've got a proven track record of doing it time and time again. And I think initially it's just understanding, we'll be really honest, we've got people on what we call a CEO program. So that's someone who's maybe not quite ready, but is almost at the point and thinks, right, let me see what this is about. Come in, work with us, work with our finance teams, marketing teams, HR, our finance director, he'll be sitting with them, learning and teaching them how to read financial reports. I've still not done that. But then, from the cultural aspect of it, that's where I get involved. We have a big thing about staying in your lane. And that's not demeaning. That's not meaning we can't sort of bleed into each other's areas of expertise. But, I used to try and get involved in everything. What I'm good at is culture. What I'm good at is people management. And that's what I really give a shit about. Finance, one eye just starts closing and I start twitching. And I'm like, you can tell I'm falling to sleep. So let our expert talk to you about that. And come and have a chat, understand what we've done and how we've done it.
How does that process work then? So, might have listened to this podcast, but we might have seen something else online, LinkedIn or whatever, or had a chat with someone who's already within the business. I'm open to a conversation about this. how do I get in touch? And then what happens next?
First and foremost, I'd have the first conversation with you, more than likely. And we'll just have understand what you've done and how you've done it. Let's talk about your background, your recruitment background. For me, I'm more trying to understand the person. Like I said, a great bill is brilliant, but if the person's not fitting with us, then it's irrelevant anyway. So it's more of a chilled, let's get to know each other, coffee, beer type of scenario, chew the fat and just see see if there's a meeting of minds. If after that we think there's something to work with, then we'll ramp it up in terms of process where you'll meet some of my colleagues, likes of Andy, Weedy, Kev, where we'll put together, firm business plans, business processing, understand what do you need, who's going to come in and help you with that, and build a full sort of picture of what your business is going to look like, and then work back from that. If we're excited by this, then at that stage we'll start to flesh it out more, and we'll crack on. But it's all about the people. It's all about the person that we're going to be doing it with. And if we don't feel we can make their vision a reality, then we'll just it's not for us. And we've done that numerous times.
But it starts with that first conversation. It's not like you saying, right, you want to talk to us, come with us a fully fucking fledged business plan and all this type of stuff. It's like, let's talk.
I rock up like this. We have a beer, we have a chat. You've lost half an hour, nothing ventured, nothing gained. But we've created a lot of successful people as a result of having that beer. And either way, I'm on nearly 25 years of experience in recruitment. I can give you some advice and guidance. And I've done that several times as well, where, I don't think it's right for us. Put you in touch with other people that we may know, or maybe think about doing this for a year or two before you do it. And like I said, it's half an hour over a beer or a coffee.
Do you think for potential entrepreneurs that are thinking of hiring people for their company or business, do you think that's important to have that sort of relaxed chat maybe beforehand, or just to get to know them a bit more?
It depends what you've set out, mate, what business you've got.
Yeah.
Some businesses are all about, like a corporate standard. And what I mean by that is it's impeccable at all costs, because that's what they do. It doesn't mean they're more professional than us, or, we're worse than them, or they're better than us, or anything like that. I think it just means it depends what you're trying to achieve. Yeah. For us, part of that process of understanding what an individual is all about is breaking down them barriers. You go into an interview, you're all uptight and, I need to answer this question. You don't get a real sort of connection with the person who's interviewing. So the first thing I try and do is just break that down, understand who that individual is, and get into that, and then build back from it. But to anybody who's interviewing, it is purely down to their, style and their environment.
Yeah. I was also going to touch upon, you're talking about mentoring potentially people, and obviously the development of people. How much importance is put on sort of taking a step back and just letting them do their thing?
Yeah, that's big time, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, again, it's the establishment at the beginning, though. It's putting a good plan together. It's having a really good framework. Trying to remove as many as the obstacles as we can for them, and just saying, early doors, you set your own business up. People think, well, it's great, I've got my own business now. You've got to work harder than you've ever worked, ever, because you take your foot off the gas, you're going to run out of money and you're going to go out of business. We provide enough support and guidance to be able to make sure that the person is fit for purpose to deliver a great business. And in the early days, it's not about swanning in with, a gold chair and a sort of massage back or something like that. It's about, working hard, working smart. You're getting in early, you're staying late. And there's no shortcuts to it. You've got to work really hard when you start. Sorry, bit of fluff.
A lot of good stuff there, mate.
Yeah.
What's the vision? Where's it going moving forward?
I think we really want to re-look at how we're sort of working in terms of recruitment. We've diversified quite a lot recently. We've got a few technology businesses, we've got property businesses, we've got finance groups, IT. And for us now, it's more about, going back to our roots and really investing in the development of our recruitment side of the business. That's both in scaling what we've got in terms of recruitment brands currently, but looking to, embark on journeys with new entrepreneurs and help them realize their goals. And it's a moving, fluid business because we've got so many people involved. It's not about the top 1%. We share. You're in business with me on a few things. It's about sharing it with like-minded people who are wanting to go on that journey and enjoy it as well as benefit from it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to put what the vision is because each business is slightly different with a slightly different goal. Some want to sell, some want to scale. From a KERV perspective, we just want to work with high quality, honest individuals who give a shit about what they're doing. And we recognize that we can help them achieve it. And I could give you some fluffy bollocks, but that's probably as honest.
I think, I suppose the last couple of years from a KERV perspective, it seems to me that the snowball's really started and it's compounding. And there's a big vision in all areas. I think it comes back to what we were initially discussing as well from the culture perspective is keeping the reins on, isn't it, with the right moves moving forward. But it certainly seems like an exciting time. If I'm an employee and I want to join the KERV group, what's the process there? Because there's different brands to join. So if I'm interested in a conversation about working for one of the brands within the parent group, how does that work?
I mean, initially, I'd still look to speak to myself and have an initial conversation because I've interviewed every person within the group because I've got a pretty good handle on each business. I speak to them all every day, and I think just have a conversation with me. Each business at the minute is looking to move into sort of growth mode if they're not on it already, and reach out to me initially, and I'll have a conversation about each brand. We've got. In Leeds in particular, we've got huge opportunities across probably 4 or 5 different businesses, and that ranges from contract to global. And there's no better time to become a sort of member of the group, if you like, because we're still small enough to be able to have you sat around a guy who bills £1 million, but yet I mean, to be fair, you've got 5, 6, 7 £1 million billers coming and sitting along guys like that. You can't fail but to learn. You're going to get something from it. So now's a really good time to join because we're small enough to be able to have you around them, but we're scalable enough to really start to kick on. So, good people looking for opportunities, just give us a shout.
Yeah, good man. Yeah. I think loads of good stuff covered there.
Yeah,
we're getting the nod that we've got a few minutes left on this. I think there's a lot more we could cover, particularly on the culture piece and the old look. Why the culture's so good in the office, not sat at home remote working all the time, and why is that important? But we might have to look at that on another one, mate. So
part 2, potentially.
Part 2 with Stu Brown.
Yeah, well, there's every single answer I've done so far. I want to answer it better than what I have done. Don't forget, I've been poorly as well. So I'll pull through for this. True.
Yeah,
good man. Well, yeah. First KERV cast, I think, lads.
Thank you very much.
We just need to decide who's on there. Who's next on the hot seat? They've got big shoes to follow, mate.
Yeah. Cheers, boys. Done well, mate. Thank you. Next time I'm having a beer as well.
Thanks for tuning in to KERV Cast. To learn more about KERV and stay connected, be sure to check out the episode description where you'll find links to our website, social media platforms, and more information about our special guest.